Oh, Jason's not here. I can't be taking a sip as soon as the podcast starts.
I can, though.
This week, the cock is away, so the hens rule the roost. Actually, is that sexist? Because it's chickens.
I don't know. I'm not.
We're gonna go with when the cats are away, the mice will play. How about that? That's safe.
There you go.
Across the board.
There you go.
All right, perfect. We are going to be covering Road to Nationals, and then we are going to be diving pretty deep into spoilers because there has been some big preview cards that Blake and I are excited for. Jason's not here, which sucks because he's got a little bit of a counterpoint to what our thoughts are. But that's too bad. Should have been here, Jason. This week on Outcast Havens podcast. In honor of Jason messing up.
In honor of Jason.
Yeah, so this week we're gonna jump right into Road to Nationals review because there has been a couple upsets, like some cool stuff that's come out of the last week here. But I'm really excited to talk spoilers and get into that. So let's go over. Let's open with do we want to do overall or
let's talk this week's. This week was interesting. Yeah. Overall, I think we can kind of high level it and scoot by in a second. So
yep.
Yeah.
All right, so it's up now. So yeah, Blake, go ahead and lead us off. What shocked you?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is seeing the significant improvement in the Bolton game. Like Bolton's been good, but Bolton going to 6 wins with 20 top 8s is pretty significant. Katsu is kind of taking a step back. Bravo just apparently fell off the back of a truck somewhere and didn't quite make it to the destination. Like everybody got to the top 8 with Bravo and they're like, let's just celebrate. Let's just have some beers, man. And they just didn't show up at all, I guess, because I don't know what happened there. 12 of them showed up. None of them won, which is unusual because Bravo usually does pretty well. And then Katsu and Prism, those numbers are painful to look at. 31 Katsu's, only 4 wins. Prism 23 with only 1 win. So, you know, the chain conversion, like right from 80 down to 11 is kind of to be expected because you can't have 80 chains win when there's like 20 events. But the fact that he's just mauling people is pretty rough. But yeah, Katsu and Prism kind of just fell off a cliff there.
Yeah. My big thing that you pointed out as well was Kano, man. Dude, what the hell? I mean, how do you... So, coming from a person who has been just grinding Kano because you love Kano, does this make you want to actually run it anymore? Because I know that you weren't going to. Like, it just... You wanted to actually have a snowball shot. So, how does this make you feel seeing it? He won.
I know. I love Kano so much. And I will say one of the interesting things was he ran like 6 power cards that I assume were specifically for the Prism matchup because you wanted to be able to pop, Air Edition or something. But talking to our buddy Dave, that feels odd because you can't Kano those cards. Like you can't do the Kano effect and hit those cards. So like when you hit those, they're just brick. So if you have a window to win the game, I don't know. I would love to hear what he did. If they were all 6 intended to be played in the Prism matchup to give you a better opportunity, or if it was something else. Like if he was just running them for that. Like if 3 of them were for that matchup and then 3, I don't know. That was the weirdest thing to me about that list. But I mean, mad props to anybody who can pull it off with Kano because you got some real scary matchups. Anybody who rolls Arcane Barrier 3 is pretty tough. Specifically a deck like Chain, because Chain can be very passive at the beginning of the game, which is when you typically need to kind of pour damage into somebody as Kano. Is you need to, like, early on, you need to get on top of them. You need to close the life gap. So, I don't know. It's interesting. I was impressed. The list was definitely not the list that I've been running. It's not the list that Dave and I have talked about, and I've played a ton of. Like I like the list that I have where it's at, but a lot of it was similar. But there were a few things that I thought felt maybe different than what I would have run, maybe a little less. I don't know. He wasn't picky about certain things that I'm real picky about, like the fine minutia of the deck.
Yeah. Anything in particular?
Just like when you looked at the deck, he ran some cards that I thought like they were, not they're not the ideal reds. He was a little low. Like he ran some like non-hit effect cards, which I think is a little interesting because if somebody does have Arcane Barrier 3, running hit effects cards is kind of like your bread and butter. That's where you get them to actually pitch and kind of stay in the game tempo wise. Because if you're just presenting raw damage, it's like Prism into Kano, right? Is like if you just present me raw damage and I'm not going to get anything on the back of it, I'm not incentivized to block or do anything to disrupt you. I'll just trade damage with you all day. It's the same with like Katsu or Chain or anybody. If you don't present me with a hit effect, I have no reason to block it if we're playing a race game. So like the cards like, even the cards like Scalding Rain that just present a pure damage, it's a good ratio, like one pitch red for 4 damage, but it's just 4 damage. In that case, I'd rather have something like Reverberate that incentivizes them to actually pitch to stop me from banishing a card and being able to play it that turn as an instant. Like I want disruption when I can, and that comes from hit effects.
Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense to me as the objective stander by watching Kano players play. So any other surprises from the results from last week?
I don't think so. I mean, you kind of have seen this thing where like Dash and Dorinthia kind of pop up here and there and have weeks where it's 2 or 3. Levia, Rhinar, Viserai, they'll have an occasional win here and there. We've seen, well, not Levia, Rhinar and Viserai have their like occasional wins that kind of pop up. It's cool to continue to see people, bring in Azalea, bring in Levia, bring in Viserai, Rhinar, and just still showing up, still top 8ing. Those are just seeing numbers. I mean, when you see 2 people top an Azalea, it's like those are they have to be committed players because like that deck is very underrepresented in terms of the grand field. So just to see 2 get through, it's like, I mean, there's probably only like 10 people playing all over the country at these things, right? Like all over the world, there's probably 10 Azalea players and 2 of them made top 8. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm super curious. Like I've always thought it'd be really cool to like somehow just measure pilot skill, because I'd be so curious to see if those Azalea players weren't like, because you're right, like the ratio of Azaleas topping to number of Azaleas probably played across the globe, it's probably outstanding if with 2 topping, because it can't be a ton.
Yeah.
I would be so curious to see like if those players were on, if Azalea didn't exist and they were just all on Dorinthia, like, or you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm just all of them. I say it like it's, hundreds. It's 2, but still, I think I'd be curious to see. Yeah. All right. You want to go right into
what these overall numbers?
The overall so far.
Yeah. I think that overall numbers have been pretty steady in terms of what we're seeing. Like I think this is like the best representation maybe of like conversion rate is like seeing these numbers, because they tend to hold pretty true. There's not a huge variance in like when Prism makes the top, she's the only one whose like percentage seems kind of wonky. Everybody else's percentages are, pretty true to what they see in the top 8. Like you see a certain percentage of that deck top 8, and then that pretty directly represents itself in, the winner's circle. And Prism is the only one who kind of seems to underperform. And I don't know if that's just a product of more players knowing how to play against it better, if she just eats Swiss alive because people don't know how to block it or don't know what to expect. They're not teched for it. I don't know if that's a product too. One kind of weird thought is, when you get to the top, you assume it's not everything, right? Like this isn't a pay to win game, but you go to the top and more people pack CNC because it's good. And hey, it just so happens to counter Prism when it's necessary. And in Swiss, somebody who's coming casually to the event, who's been playing Fab for 3 weeks, probably doesn't own their playset of CNCs quite yet. So they're less likely to have brought, Brutal Assault red into their deck just to pop prisms or, phantasms.
Phantasms, yeah.
Versus somebody who just naturally has CNCs in their deck, just goes, well, it's a good card and I can fit it. So of course I'm going to play it. I'm not stupid.
Yeah, and I think that once you get to like the top 8s, you see a lot more people that are properly sideboarding. Like there's just a lot more of that happening. So I think that probably, like, in Swiss, it's a grab bag, man. Like playing, like, being the Prism player in Swiss, there's times where it's like, God, if this wasn't a tournament, I would be correcting you so hard right now. Like, it's just it's painful to get to top 8 and then be confronted with people like that. That is where the pain for Prism definitely lies, is people know how to properly sideboard Indoor.
An interesting thought too is, I know one of the things that I didn't realize until I took Prism just casually to one of our random armories one week, and it wasn't even a very good build, but one of the things that I totally didn't think about was Bolton has a naturally high percentage of like big cards. So he doesn't have a deck full of them like Rhinar, but they typically run Cataclysm, they typically run Bolting Blade, and a lot of them run CNC. So they naturally just have 9 cards in their deck that pop, phantasms when necessary. And that's actually, like, if you think about it, Bolton is really well represented when it comes to top 8s in terms of, in Swiss, I think he's probably an underrepresented deck still in Swiss. He's probably gaining popularity lately, but he is underrepresented in Swiss. But then in Top Cut, he's just a beast, and he gets there. And when he gets there, it's typically piloted by good players. So I think that also could hurt Prism a little bit, is the fact that, like, while she has good matchups in Akatsu, like, Bolton can maybe give her fits because he's got access to so many of those cards, and he doesn't need them to kind of get through his process. Whereas like Bravo, if Bravo trades you a Crippling Crush to pop a Dominated Phantasm or something, then you feel really good about that. Whereas Bolton just goes, cool, I'll give you a Bolting Blade, and then I'll play with 3 cards in my arsenal still. And that's scary with Bolton.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that point is great, because I just found out that, so Chris, one of our subscribers, longtime channel friend, since before we started the channel, but like he was telling me when we were testing, like he was in watching me and Jason run some test games, and we had Will in there too. If you're listening, Will, it's nice to meet you for like officially. So Chris was in watching Jason and I test, and he's like, dude, like I ran aggro into Bolton, and I just I couldn't get through what I needed to get through. And I was like, why are you running aggro into Bolton? He was like, that's what the Prism Discord. And it's one of the reasons that I sort of tend to not subscribe to like the class Facebook pages and the class Discords, is because that's bad advice. Don't do that. Because like exactly the reason that you said. And, I tested into Bolton without thinking about his, like, this was, I don't know, a month ago, without thinking about his ratios of, attacks that do pop so easily. And it was the same issue. I couldn't do it. I'm like, so I tried auras into it, and you can pace that out. And that is actually a pretty comfortable not comfortable. I don't want Jason to get up in arms, but like, it's an even matchup. And because Bolton puts on pressure, but not fast enough, and not like bursty enough to make Prism not have time to stabilize. So in matchups where like you just don't see what you need in Prism, Bolton's gonna just go over the top of you and win. But in matchups where you can, hit the aura combo with the tomes and stuff at like 10 plus health, you're fine. Like, you're gonna be able to start really putting on a ton of pressure, because 10 plus health makes them think I might not necessarily be able to kill, so I need to start taking care of auras. And at that point too, like, you're making so many spectral shields that you're mitigating a lot of damage there. So it, like, aura is the way to run into Bolton. And if you are a part of the Prism Discord and you're listening to this and you're all up in arms because you think that's wrong, then come at me, because that is just the way that is, for that
I
reason
think
that Blake brought up.
Yeah, I think sometimes that hive mind mentality, like it's
Mhm.
good to have
I
the
like it
think
for the
tank, right?
I like it for the
Yeah.
community, like, but it's
Yeah.
like in DBS you've got that Vegeta's Army, or what is it?
Yeah.
The
Vegeta's Saiyan army.
Vegeta Saiyan Army, the Facebook group, and it's cool. Like
Mhm.
they're super hardcore Vegeta fans. I always want to run that leader, and like they come up with some neat stuff, because it's people grasping at straws to try and make maybe not tier 1 decks playable in
Yep.
competition, and that's cool to see. But that's not where I'm going for like hot deck tech.
Yeah.
So,
Well, because a lot of times what ends up happening is also those people who love a hero will get blinders on sometimes. I
mhm.
know we have those moments where we'll have those, we'll have those discussions. They're
Hard discussions with
nice.
each other.
They're just super friendly and casual. As you can imagine, none of us, we never get heated or up in arms. We never get riled up in our group chats. It's very calm and friendly. That's just a show we put on for the podcast for, the viewers' sake. But I think sometimes, like, if you play a deck too much and you don't have perspective of other people who play into it, you end up getting this like hive mind mentality where people put on the blinders and it's like, oh, we always win this matchup. And then somebody who plays the deck that you always win against is like, no, you don't. Like, I can beat it if I do it, if I play it differently. But everybody is recalling their best game they've ever had against that deck. So they're just like, oh yeah, we just win it every time. It's like, but you don't win it every time. You win it sometimes, but
You
it's not
might
every time.
against
Yeah.
Dave at your locals,
Yeah.
but
Right.
yeah.
Like I always crush this dude with, I always crush this dude's prism. And then you find out this dude's prism doesn't run phantasmal footsteps. So it's like, well, as soon as I just pop one of his things, then I just blow him out. And it's like, oh yeah, I mean that's kind of tough. It's
Mhm.
like, but what do you do about, Herald of Erudition when he like dominates and hits you? It's like, oh well, he doesn't run that card because he only has one of them. It's like,
Or like
mm,
not even that,
mm,
because that's getting into like what the deck consistency is, but more like, yeah, like Dave blocks Herald of Protection early, or he's not afraid to
yeah,
use improperly uses armor, doesn't save it for an erudition late game, or you
yeah,
know what I mean, like something like
yeah,
that.
mhm,
100% changes outcomes.
yeah,
Like just
yeah.
miss blocking early like
Yep.
that, whatever it is.
People don't understand what to block when, how to play
Yeah.
the cards in sequence, right? They're not baiting out blocks, right? With like, oh, I'll play this Herald of Protection for 7 before I play Erudition because I want them to block with cards or try to stop it so I can't Spectral Shield poke them 2 or 3 times. And you're
Mhm.
just trying to bait things, and that's what good players do is they try to bait miss blocks and stuff out of people. And it's no knock on like local players. Like good players make mistakes, but good players more often than not do the right things and they bait the right things and they they put feelers out to see if people have ways to pop things. Like if you're trying to play an Erudition, you don't want to Dreamweavers it, right? You don't like just run it out there first thing with them with 4 cards in hand.
Mhm.
You try to see like, okay, if I give them a 7 with a hit effect, will they pop this one? Because if they
Mhm.
do, there's less of a chance they have another one for the second attack. And it's like all those little things that, to your point, good players are fishing for that sometimes people are just like, haha, I play big card. Haha, I play big card. Like they don't side into auras and things like that. And it's like hive minds tend to get blinders and they're like, my favorite character is best character. And I don't care what anybody says. We
Mhm.
win every matchup. And it's the same people who see every card and they're like, this card's busted. This card's
Yeah.
busted. It's
There
like,
hasn't been any of
okay,
that this preview season.
yeah.
Jason's probably having an aneurysm because we've been hyping ice, dude. Because Blake and
Hype
I
and ice hard.
both like control, and yeah, it's gonna.
Oh god.
We're
I love
sorry,
control so much.
everyone, in advance.
We're
No,
sorry in
so
advance.
I just wanted to bring that up because I was shocked when Chris mentioned that. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
people think that that's how that matchup gets run. Oh, okay. Sounds good. He's like, you and me, we're on the same page. I'm like, I honestly thought everyone was on that page.
Yeah.
Until I found out about this little cult in the woods, whatever. So so wow, lost it. Gone. Dude, it's been a day. I'm still recovering from jet lag. I'm back,
Yeah.
by the way, survived
Yep.
Hawaii.
Yep.
Had a
More
great
specifically, the
honeymoon.
T-Rex. Yeah,
And
the T-Rex.
We got
Yep.
we got in our buggy, dude. That was so much fun. Can I just quick vent? So I went to Hawaii on my honeymoon before we got married, technically, because COVID, we had to cancel. People were sick. It's fine.
There's no rules.
We got over it. Still getting over it. Got to replan it. But dude, we buggied, we snorkeled, we went on a catamaran and went up the coast. It was so freaking insane and so much fun. Like best vacation I've ever taken in my life. And like I traveled with the army and I got to do basically whatever I wanted when I was, young and making tons of money and all that. And that was just hands down, like Kauai was beautiful. So that was a blast. And glad that you guys held it together for a week without me.
Yeah, we did.
Very appreciative of that.
Totally. I crushed it. I'll just speak personally. I totally crushed it. I streamed everything and did all the editing like it was nothing. I was up till like 2:30 in the morning editing because I was having like all kinds of computer issues.
One thing I actually did respond to a comment on our YouTube. We need to figure out how to get you access to the Podbean server.
Oh yeah. No, I totally.
I'm gone. Like we don't get the audio because I know there's people that do just listen to the audio. Actually, it's a decent number now. We're looking at like our Podbean stats, which is super cool.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we'll have to get the audio out of last week's because we still don't have the audio out, do we?
We do not. I think that everyone that I have not
we can get it out
for, so like 4, we just haven't. There's just no episode for that on Podbean.
Yeah.
Or whatever website you listen through.
Yeah.
So we'll take care of that too. But yeah, that was my little rant on my vacation. Good to be back. And
back in time for big time spoiler season too. Like it's getting ramped up horde.
So do we want to just jump right into it?
I think so, yeah.
Cool. Ice, man. Ice is good. Like LSS was like, you guys hate chain. Sounds good. We're going to throw this Uber control archetype at you. And just make it miserable.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I thought it was good just with like what we've seen so far for Lexi. I'm like, all right, cool. She's like making life painful for whoever she's playing against.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the fact that this exists in the game now is going to overhaul the meta. Like it's not like the Monarch introducing the new heroes and like everyone still gets to play their game and everyone still, you know what I mean? Like this set coming out with this archetype is going to make, I would be shocked if there was any deck that got to still play how it plays after this comes out. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, like that was something I know some people are going to instantaneously be like, you are wrong, you're disgusting, you're a terrible human for saying this, but every game needs a functional version of control that is very disruptive.
Yep. I will caveat that and say that there are probably more realistic people that will say it's too early to speculate. We haven't seen the rest of the cards. We don't like, and that's Jason's point. And sorry, Jason, that we're speaking without you to defend yourself here. But I get that aspect of it. The only reason that I'm jumping on this and saying with confidence that this is what is going to play out going forward is because we don't have a disruptive deck like this yet in the game.
Yeah.
There's decks that make it difficult. There's cards that you can play that will take your arsenal like Command and Conquer. There's cards that will make your defense reactions cost 1 more. But those are so far and few between. This is an archetype where every turn you should expect to have to pay an additional resource or more, or you're going to just lose a card from hand with no interaction. Like there's just that exists now and it didn't before. So that's just that's a new thing and we're all gonna have to adapt. And I have the utmost confidence that the rest of the cards in the set are going to balance that within the set, but also that they've taken into consideration how decks can be built. And that it's not just gonna make like these new heroes who have answers to it able to be played and the rest not. I'm confident that there's a way that you can rework your Katsu and be able to play into this. But to your point earlier, where every game needs a feasible form of control, I think that that's awesome for this game. I'm so excited because it just forces the game to slow down, because
Yeah.
just with what we've seen for ice, red line decks are not feasible anymore. If they run
Yeah.
into an ice deck, they're done. Like, they're done, because
Yeah.
they are having to pitch to not discard multiple cards. Probably they are
Mhm.
paying more when they play. Like, it's just, that's no longer something you
Yeah.
need to worry about. You don't need to worry about getting burned turn 4 by aggro Katsu, regardless of how
Mhm.
you're building. So decks
Yeah.
going
Well,
to
and
mid to late game.
even little things, like I think thinking about something like Chain, where more important than forcing an extra cost on him or things like that is the fact that Chain will almost functionally have to operate in a different manner, where into an ice deck, if the whole archetype of ice, again, this is speculation and we continue to see more cards, and I feel pretty confident in saying that obviously art ice is the archetype that will be the control archetype. It's going to play control. It's going to be intended to slow decks down. And I think that the real concern that Chain should be thinking about is the fact that if you're creating this kind of hill to climb with frostbite tokens or something where you're pushing a cost greater on them, they have to be incredibly careful about just haphazardly shackling every turn because, oh, we'll be good to go, because all of a sudden, they're like, oh, I'll just keep shackling, and next thing you know, they've got 4 frostbite tokens sitting there staring them in the face, and they realize their first action is going to cost 5 resources to play. All of a sudden, that free Seeds of Agony everybody has been complaining about, we're like, oh, it's free, it's disgusting. You know what? You should be thanking the gods of Frostbite right now, because if somebody Frostbites Chain twice and they're like, oh, I want to play this Seeds, but it's a 2 resource card for maybe 1 arcane damage. Like, it's not even a guaranteed arcane every time. A lot of times people just play Seeds to buff a Riftbind. So it's like, are you going to pay 2 to put a Seeds on the table to buff a Riftbind by 1? Because now your your red Riftbind for 4 with the Seeds in front of it just cost you 3 resources. That used to be a Howl from Beyond. And now your Howl from Beyond is a 4 resource card. And it becomes that whole game of, now Chain, when you draw a red hand with Chain already and you've got 4 shackles, if you hit all 4 of them, you have to really kind of jump through some hoops on occasion to get your blood deck cleared if you need to clear it, because it's like later game or you're lower on life. And I think that ice really presents a specific style that Chain is going to play into, where they have to reconsider every turn just nonchalantly shackling. Because if all of a sudden an ice deck just goes, hey, here's 4 frostbite tokens, Chain has to look at their deck and go, I can't block this damage and still pay for my turn. But do I just keep taking 5 or 6 damage every turn and then expending my whole hand to only pressure them back with an equal amount of damage? Because that's the trade that you're looking for if you're trying to control somebody. Let's just have even amounts of damage, and then at some point you won't be able to continue to take the damage and expend their resources. So I, as the control deck, will take control of the game. Like, that's how I'm going to win this game, is that about halfway through the game you're going to realize you're behind and you're going to have to start blocking or start doing something about it.
Yeah, I think that to speak for Jason a little bit here is, like, now we're kind of going down the rabbit hole of looking at specific interactions between characters,
Right,
and
totally.
heroes, and, like, I mean, and that's just kind of what we were talking about in our group chat. Like, that's sort of what we do, is like speculate, right?
Yeah.
But to bring it back around to just looking at it big picture, is it's just going to throw wrenches into how decks operate. Like, that's what it does.
Right.
And I thought Lexi was good with, like, just looking at what she did. And, like, I sent an example to Jason because he was saying, like, yeah, it's just too early to speculate all this. And I was like, okay, so these are just common cards, just the Chilling Ice Fane and the Amulet, right? And it's just stuff that you have playsets of that you happen to get. Like, it's not even like her specializations or anything. And in that, it was basically like, if you have an Amulet arsenaled and then an ice card in hand and 2 resources, you can use Lexi's ability, the bow, and basically flip up to give him a frostbite, because that's just what Lexi does, and flip up your Amulet, and then Chilling Ice Vein into Arsenal because now you have a face-up card for 1. Play the Chilling Ice Vein, reveal the card in your hand that's ice because you're running an ice deck, so you probably have it. And so all that takes is the card in Arsenal and 3 cards in hand. So
Yep.
what you're getting, though, if you do take damage on this, is you are giving them a Frostbite token, you are playing the Chilling Ice Vein, and they either need to block 5 using armor or 1 or multiple cards from hand. And if they don't, and it hits, they have to spend a resource, meaning losing a card or tunic or whatever. And that is for every attack. They have to spend a resource or dump a card from hand. So you're basically getting a card from hand for that. Then you've got the amulet itself, which is taking a card from hand, either paying the resources for it or... So it's like you are, and on top of losing the cards, guaranteed and pushing whatever damage they didn't block. And that's with nothing else required. And I'm doing the thing now where I'm talking about a specific line, but to my point, it's that this is not like a wombo combo setup.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing this, and with now we've seen more ice cards come out that are contributing to this play style. It's like this, they're just gonna be able to do this.
Well, and that's also keep in mind that you're not locked into running one of the bows, right? So the token bow is just fine, but the Voltaire Strike Twice paired with an ice archetype basically says if you pitch a blue or pitch a yellow, you can cover the cost of the instant to put a card face up and give it go again. So a card like Chilling Ice Vein says if an attack hits this turn. So if you have 2 1-cost arrows, which they're all 1 cost pretty much, you now give the first one go again into the second one. So all you got to do is pitch a blue card to get a card in your arsenal twice. You can do it with, Voltaire, and then you just have to be able to pay for them, which I mean, maybe that's energy potions. It could be another card, but like you can pretty easily fire off multiple arrows in a turn now because your bow is letting you do that, and that's assuming you don't have arrows in there already. So just like little things like Chilling Ice Vein is very disruptive. Voltaire giving those things go again means that you're going to have multiple attacks with the Chilling Ice Vein effect if you fuse Chilling Ice Vein. And it's like those little things, it's just very disruptive. The ability of like the Guardian, they just revealed the Guardian Hammer, which basically says if you pitch an ice card to pay for it and it hits, create a Frostbite token under your opponent's control, and it's a 4. So that's a 2-card block or a defense reaction block in order to block that out. Otherwise, they take a Frostbite. And it's like just the stacking effect of Frostbite. I think the existence of it, while again, let's ignore lines, let's ignore specifications of decks and whatever cards, and let's just say this: if Frostbites can be made every turn or every other turn consistently, it throws a wrench in decks' cost curves where decks have to start to consider, I might have to sideboard 3 energy potions to try to get out to offset Frostbite token stacks or something that if it happens. And that's more meaningful than anything, is if decks have to bring a different deck to the game now than what they used to bring, all of a sudden things like energy potion come in, or you start to put more blue cards in, it changes those aggro decks and pushes their aggro strategies back just a little bit. And that's really meaningful to the game and the ability of some decks that just hard lose to those strategies. It lets some of those decks rise. So the existence of ice can, funny enough, can temper aggro, which most people, in most games is like red deck wins because fire and burn. The ice will temper that a little bit. It'll cool things down and allow other decks to come in, which while some people will be mad or annoyed by control decks, like real hard control, I just think that people hopefully will realize that the health of the game is going to be actually made significantly better if the game just kind of tempers out a little bit. Because
I think that exactly. I think moral of this whole discussion is that we're excited for it. One, because we are control players, but 2, because it is going to change the game and it's going to make it better. Like it's pushing the game to be a more mid, back and forth, like very paced out and deliberate game is just better. It's going to be more fun. It's going to promote better piloting. There's just a lot that it does for the game. So yes, aggro Katsu players, yes, like chain any red line Azalea, you're probably not that you were, but
She was
Dory,
super relevant before.
yeah, like aggro Dory, which all Dory is aggro except for Nyx.
I mean,
Nyx control Dory.
yeah.
It was super freaking sweet to see. But I was thinking that Lexi was just super controlling really good. And then we saw some of these Guardian cards, and I was just like, okay, all right, well, Bravo, or not Bravo, but the old team.
Old team.
I think like, I don't know. The LSS always says pronounce it how you want, but I think like the like Nordic Norse whatever pronunciation of HIM is eam for the most part. So I'm gonna go old eam, but
okay. I mean,
that's what I'm going.
Maybe we have some subscribers. Maybe there's a subscriber somewhere.
If you know how that is like typically pronounced.
Yeah.
Comment down below, because I like to pronounce things like accurately. It's always fun to do like labia too, like labia.
Yeah.
But Levia.
Yeah. Old him.
As long as I can rationalize it. Levia, like Leviathan.
Leviathan.
That's how I pronounce it now. Yeah. So I'm super excited to see the rest of these spoilers, dude. Like, what's been everyone's favorite spoiler so far? Because there's been a lot. Anything to come out of, I keep calling it spoiler preview season, spoiler season, whatever you want to call it. That you guys are like in love with, because Blake and I super amped on ice, but going back a little bit to when you're talking about, you know, sitting down from across from Lexi or the old team and wanting to sideboard in your potions, it's like, what if they're lightning, or what if they're earth?
Yeah.
Not, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so, it's the same issue like going into like Katsu. It's like, is this going to be control or aggro? Because that's two very different play styles.
Very different play styles. Yeah.
Which I love. I love that they make these heroes modal like that, where you get options for how to build them. So
yeah. I also think it's interesting too, because obviously as control players, we're pretty focused on Lexi's cards that are control and these ice cards that are coming out for our Guardian. I know that that's the focus that we've kind of been on, but I love that Lexi has the potential to also be built in a very aggro strategy, but in a way that is different from Azalea, because I think that that's important. I know some people have complained, which I don't understand, that, well, these new heroes come out and they make the old heroes not good or whatever. You know, now you have to play this new one, which I find ironic that anyone would complain about that, because I don't think anybody thought to themselves, man, Bolton completely makes Dorinthia just non-existent. Like, what's the point of playing Dorinthia if you can play Bolton? Now, I will say, you know, when Prism came out, nobody was playing any other illusionist anymore. Like, you're just so hopefully somebody will get that joke. That's a big dad joke.
I'm waiting for him to announce the
third one's an illusionist,
hold, and it's going to be an illusionist. I'm going to be so freaking excited.
As a Kano player, I'll be sad that it's not a wizard.
No, it'll probably end up being a wizard or something. But I am so not switching off Prism in this next. I think this next set's gonna be great for Prism. I know that like what we've seen, like getting Frostbite hurts Prism, but the rest of the meta, man, having to slow down Prism's just, I get to play Aura now for the most part.
Yeah.
The only matchups that I ran aggro into were the aggro matchups that are feasibly not going to exist if ice is going to be a threat in the field. So I think that having, and maybe people figure out a way to side into it and can still run aggressive into not Lexi, but I don't know that is, there's not that, I mean, 80 cards sounds like a lot, but really that's not enough to truly shift what your deck
your full strategy.
Games. Right. So I think that that's going to be super fun to be able to play my Prism into. So
I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm excited to see what somebody comes up with for like a lightning Lexi, because that'll be a really fun strategy too, because we always talked about how Azalea, if she could go wider, sometimes would be more impactful, because 2 arrows a turn presenting 2 hit effects is very awkward, because when the first one is presented, you don't know what the second one is going to be. If you could present Sleep Dart with Go Again, and at even a 4, it's like, oh God, do I do I block this one with 2 cards? But what if the next one's worse? Like, what if I get hit with something
Right.
like Remorseless next and I can't block it? And that was something that with Azalea, it's always like, God, I wish we could do this. But she was never had that consistent ability to go again. So
Mhm.
we always played Azalea as tall Azalea, where it's like make one arrow and make it impactful. But with Lexi, with the lightning bow and lightning cards, if you can pair the lightning cards and double arsenal up on things like Sleep Dart and some of that stuff, like all of a sudden you have this, barrage of arrows coming at you with just hit effect after hit effect, which is really, really cool
Yeah.
because her hit effects are they're ranger hit effects, right? So as somebody who's played a lot of Bravo, one of the things that kind of sucks about Bravo at times is that it's like, God, I have to push 4. So if you can't present like a red attack or a yellow attack, you're just like, I mean, if it's not cranial crush, it's probably like a 5 or a 6,
Right.
and it's easy to get out of a crush on a 6. It has to be 7 or more for it to be a good crush effect. Whereas with Azalea, it's like if one sneaks through,
Mhm.
sucks to suck, and you're just
Yeah.
gonna get smoked with the effect. And if you could just fire 2 or 3 arrows on turns, and it's like, here's a sleep dart, here's a remorseless, oh by the way, here's this lightning arrow, and it's like, God, just oh, I hate my life so much right now. It's
Yeah.
like that's scary, that's some serious aggro that could all of a sudden pack a punch. Like that to me, that feels very Bolton-esque.
Yeah. And I think that those, like, I would say it's definitely scarier than Bolton, because Bolton's, it's reliant on the charge, and yes,
Yeah.
the new Lexi cards are reliant on fusing for the most part for getting like the cool effects. But
Hmm.
like the old Azalea cards don't have they don't have a requirement for hitting other than just to hit. That's it. No additional requirement there, and they don't require anything else in hand.
Yep.
So with like that compared to Bolton, who has to charge, and then it's a 3 attack coming in that lets him draw a card. Like a lot of times it's like,
Hmm.
okay, sure. Like you have to get rid of a soul to go. Like there's just it's
Yeah.
definitely not as impactful as Azalea. And
It's
that's if like remembering back, not that Azalea was ever like dominant by any means, but when more people were playing Azalea, that was like the one thing that always stood out to me. It was like, God, like she just these effects, you just need to hit for one. Really? There's no like there's nothing else I can do about this. You just if one gets through, you're taking away my hero ability. Great.
Yeah, it's also interesting because the new bows present some value to cards in Azalea or in Ranger in general. Like there are cards now that you can play in Lexi that you would never run in Azalea because you never want to have a card with the hit effect not hit a breakpoint, because a 2 or a 3 feels. I mean, 2 is sometimes okay because it makes somebody block it, but that's also can be blocked with armor. So that kind of feels bad. Whereas like a 3 is just like it's one card for the most part. Trading a card for a card to not take an impactful hit effect is okay. But if you can get someone to trade armor or 2 cards for a
Mhm.
4, always feels better, right? Like breakpoints are so important in this game when we talk about damage. And the new like the new bow with the go again and with Voltaire, like the fact that you could go again the first arrow instant in and then +1 the second one means that you can all of a sudden run like blue sleep dart because
Mhm.
you just use the arrow to give it +1 and make it a 4, and now it breakpoints on people. So
Yep.
you go again the first arrow and say, hey, by the way, here's a sleep dart coming for 4 after it. So pick your poison. You're gonna have to either block the first effect or the second effect, or you
Mhm.
give me your whole hand in your turn. And it's like that's a really interesting thing that all of a sudden makes some of these blue cards that were 3s
Dude,
good.
now I'm spiraling, so I'm getting into like that whole like wanting to spiral into like plays that could happen that seem cool, which is just fun to do. There's so many cool things that can be
Yeah.
happening with
Yep.
this now for a ranger that for Lexi. Well, I think for Azalea too, especially with that
Yeah.
Bolton. Well, what was the new Azalea
Oh,
reveal?
oh God, what's the card?
Bolton Go or something like that.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember the name of it. It's nasty though. The Seek and Destroy.
Oh, I was talking about the oh, there's a new one that was
Oh,
spoiled too.
gotcha. I love Seek
Yes.
and Destroy. The fact that like it does what Nimbleism does, and you run Nimbleism in your deck all day long, right? Your next arrow attack gains +3. But then the fact that it like blows up people. It basically tells people like you don't get to take anything to the next round with you, which is super impactful for Azalea, because one of the ways to counter Azalea is to arsenal defense reactions. But when you play Seek and Destroy, guess what you can't do now? Like you can't
not getting
do
an
anything
arsenal
about that.
if
You're
it
not getting
hits.
your arsenal. So her dominate effect is all of a sudden more powerful because it guarantees like late game Seek and Destroy is going to be the nuts.
Bolt and Shot is the name of the card. So that's the one
Oh,
where
gotcha. Yeah.
if its power is greater than its base power, which is just going to happen. Well,
Yeah.
feasibly, right? Depending on how you build it. It has
Right.
go again, and if this hits, reload. And it's a 0 for 4. It's like, okay, that's crazy. I don't know. It's just, there's lots to be excited for, and I haven't seen a ton of talk about what ice means for the game. So just wanted to throw our 2 cents out there that we're excited for it because we think it's good overall for the game. It's going to be great for the game.
I think one of the most interesting things we've seen is the fact that now that they spoiled the new hammer or the new guardian is a 4 attack, but it's a one-handed hammer, which means that the rotten old buckler is a thing. You know, now having a shield, I personally have been like, man, I would love a shield. That's a really cool mechanic in a game when you're talking about this like 1v1 combat style to have more block. But now I wonder, and I mentioned this in our group chat, if we're going to get a shield in a majestic form that has like temper, because that would be super cool that you can block with it for 2 then 1, and it almost like gives you another way for like your hero to be super tanky in a different way. So it's not just in your armor, but now you have this shield that you can time differently, and it presents different things to think about that we didn't have before, because a shield it's another thing that, before also Guardians sometimes would be like, I want to run Mage Master boots for like, Tome of Findal or some of these other things. You want to run Mage Master boots, but then in some matchups you're like, well, I have to run, like the Iron Rot or Iron Hide feat just to get the extra block. Well, now guess what? You can run Mage Masters because you got a shield, baby. Like that, there's your extra block that you needed with the new Guardian.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that that'd be so cool. Like having shields be options like that. Like it just says, hey, Dory, that was a cute fridge. Wait till you see this.
Welcome to the deep freeze.
Right? Literally. Ice Guardian. Watch out.
Nailed it.
So that is really all that I think we had for this week. Like, even when we were talking here, what else has been spoiled? Oh, no, the hammer.
The hammer.
The most recent thing.
Yep.
So, dude, I keep going down rabbit trails. This whole podcast, I've been like just thinking, trying to keep my head straight, because this set's going to be crazy. Oh, sealed. Man.
Oh, yeah.
I am so excited for sealed and draft. Like, it is very obvious why they've been saying this set is so conducive to a good sealed and draft format, because having the crossover of like the elemental cards and having multiple heroes vying for the same things, like it's just going to be so much fun in sealed and draft. And I actually reached out to, because I know Raveone's been putting up cards and stuff. As soon as the stuff gets spoiled at Vegas, I want us, especially because callings are going to be sealed, like the Dallas and Cincinnati callings, I want to have like our live stream start to do that. Like just all of us grab 6 packs
sealed.
I want to start doing that, because I love it. Like I love draft and I love sealed in this game. I know you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's honestly like one of my, personally, we've talked about this before, but I notoriously don't like sealed in games. Like that's one of the things that we've always had unanimously is it's like a new set would come out. Everyone's like, oh, let's go to locals this week. And I would sometimes even just skip that first week of locals because everywhere wanted to play sealed. So everyone's like, oh, we're doing sealed. And it's funny because those events are usually pretty big because people want to open new packs and get new cards. I'm just like, nah, I'm not interested in this format. I hate this format. But
everyone
funny enough,
bad decks.
Yeah. Let's all play awful decks against each other. And it doesn't, and a lot of times if you get a bomb card, you just win. Like I got the bomb in this set and I drafted it and I got it, or I opened it in my pack. So now I'm going to win every game because I got the best card in the set. And this game doesn't do that. It rewards piloting and smart deck building. And I love that. So funny enough, we record this on a Thursday, but on Friday, when everyone's listening to this, I switched nights that I'm playing games this week. Normally I go out on Thursdays and play, but this week I'm playing on Friday because I'm going to go play Sealed because I was excited to go play Sealed. That's how much I like Sealed in this game. So yeah. I'm willing to shift my schedule around to make sure I get to the right locals so I can play a Sealed event. Yeah. So I'm excited.
It's arcane. Is it Sealed or is it draft?
I think it's Sealed. I think that's what Robert said. Yeah, Robert mentioned, he messaged us earlier about it because he said Bates said it was Sealed. So
nice. Dude, draft was so much fun.
Also, a week from tomorrow, Jason and I will be in Vegas, and we will be playing Sealed.
Prepare to
with
get
Tales
spammed.
of Aria.
Yeah, prepare to get spammed on the Facebook page and the community button or community post.
Yep,
that's gonna be crazy. All right.
Yeah, Jason's bringing his camera and he's bringing his equipment. So we might there's vendors at this thing. We feel like there's vendors, which means there's probably boxes, which means it's totally possible that we just like grab someone like Bronson or Rob and the Tellurian Dropout guys. We're just like, hey, you guys want to like just sit in the lobby and play Sealed? We'll just set up a camera and just, let's live stream this bad boy.
So definitely be on the lookout for that next week. I don't have anything else to talk about this week. Just ice hype. And
nice hype.
Road to Nationals was what it was. There's another week of that. Were there any in the U.S.? Did you look?
A couple. There's a couple in the U.S. this week, and then it's pretty global this weekend, like all over Europe and stuff.
Cool. So there will still be more results coming in next week, and yeah, be sure to. So there's a couple things, just some admin. We've got the contest still open for the first edition Tales box that we're giving away. That is all you need to do is be a subscriber and comment on episode 52, which was our 1-year episode, just your favorite part from the last year. Comment there, and you'll automatically get enrolled in a random drawing that we will do that Friday's podcast. We're going to close that noon the Thursday prior to release day, because then that night we're going to record and randomize and announce on that podcast who won. And then we also have, actually you can see it behind me, we've got our promos that we got from LSS that we are giving away. And the way that we're doing that is going to be our card reveal is next Tuesday. And we are going to just on that live stream at 10, we'll fire up and we're just going to reveal the card in the first couple minutes. And then until 11 p.m. Central Time, so an hour into the live stream, anyone who comments and is a subscriber will get entered for a chance to win full play sets. We're doing full play sets. So if you're looking at how some of these are selling right now, you're going to, like, someone posted one of them for $500.
Yeah.
So like, that's a little crazy, but like you're like, it's going to be a good deal, and we don't want to ship to 60 people. So we're going to ship to 20 instead. And you're getting a full play set, and someone's going to get a mat, the Herald of Protection mat. So join us. Love to just talk with you guys in the comments as we're going through our normal Tuesday night live stream after that. And really looking forward to that interaction, because I think that our card is going to, it contributes in a big way to this next format. So excited to have y'all join us then. Any last thoughts, Blake?
I mean, I think you had a little special reveal about something that you started up, right?
Yeah. So when LSS sent out these preview or the content creator appreciation kits, they had like in the email a thing about like setting up a Patreon and like how to, people use it as a tip jar. People use it as, like, I know Bronson's using it. If you haven't subscribed to his and you're interested in it, he's doing it as like a dividends dispersal. Basically, whenever he gets a content creator appreciation kit, he's got tiers for what you receive when that type of stuff comes out, and that's how he's doing his. We're kind of self-sufficient. Blake and I both have like a store that we operate online that makes us the money that we need to make to keep this stuff going. So we're not really looking for any kickbacks on the channel. We just do this for fun. Not going to paywall anything. But I did start an OnlyFans, so if you guys want to join us there, there might be some sneak peeks at stuff that we throw up on there, all sneaky like, It's free. No, if you want to
Yeah.
tip us, that's cool. But just felt like not one of the cool kids not having a Patreon. So OnlyFans.
Yeah. Because it feels better to have people reference the fact that while they're patrons of some people like Bronson, they have to join the OnlyFans of the Outcast.
That's right. Other than that, hope to see you in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. Don't miss any of our upcoming stuff because it's going to be exciting. And we will talk to y'all in the comments. Peace.